to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shujar, and these are the headlines. Afghan forces have retaken control of a western provincial capital stormed by the Taliban a day earlier. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said hundreds of fresh troops have been redeployed to the region. It said some fighting was continuing on the fringes of Qala-e-Nau, capital of Badghis province. Three rockets have landed near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad in a series of attacks on American assets in the region. The Iraqi army says nearby places in Baghdad's heavily fortified green zone were struck. This comes after a day marked by rocket and drone attacks against bases hosting U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. Haiti's security forces have killed 4 suspects in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse at his home. In televised comments, Haiti's police chief said 2 other mercenaries have been detained. Officers are still in combat with some remaining suspects in the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince. Brazil has reported more than 1,600 COVID-19 deaths and over 54,000 cases in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 24 more people have died while nearly 1,700 tested positive overnight. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4 million lives and has infected over 185 million others. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be back after a short break. Welcome back. Afghan forces have retaken control of a western provincial capital stormed by the Taliban a day earlier. In a statement, the Defense Ministry said hundreds of fresh troops have been redeployed to the region. It said some fighting continued in the fringes of Qala-e-Nau, capital of Badghis province. Kabul said 69 fighters have been killed in fresh operations on the edge of the capital. Yesterday, the Taliban seized key government buildings in the city amid foreign withdrawal. Meanwhile, the group also claims it has conquered the last key district of southern Zabul province. Earlier, the defense chiefs of Turkey and the United States discussed the security of Kabul airport. The Turkish Defense Ministry says Hulusi Akar and Lloyd Austin agreed to continue talks. The United States has acknowledged Pakistan's efforts to bring peace and security to Afghanistan. A State Department spokesperson said Washington and Islamabad also share broader counterterrorism interests. And in a press briefing, Ned Price said Pakistan is an important partner across many fronts. Price said the people-to-people contacts between Washington and Islamabad unite the two countries. He noted that regional consensus and support for the Afghan-led and owned peace process is important. The spokesperson said Iran has played a constructive role in hosting the recent intra-Afghan meeting. 3 rockets have landed near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad in a series of attacks on American assets in the region. The Iraqi army says nearby places in Baghdad's heavily fortified green zone were struck. Sirens blared from the embassy compound while the anti-rocket system was also activated. This follows a day marked by rocket and drone attacks against bases hosting U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria. The U.S.-led coalition says 2 personnel were injured after 14 rockets targeted the Ain al-Assad air base in western Iraq. Reportedly, a far-right Iraqi militant group has claimed responsibility for the attack. The United States says it expects the 7th round of indirect talks with Iran on reviving the 2015 nuclear deal to take place at the appropriate moment. In a briefing, State Department spokesperson Ned Price did not specify any date or time for the next round. Price said Washington looks forward to being engaged in the discussions. The talks adjourned on the 20th of June as participants returned to their capitals for consultations. Meanwhile, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Saeed Khatibzadeh says Iran's production of enriched uranium is peaceful. Haiti's security forces have killed 4 suspects in the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse at his home. In televised comments, Haiti's police chief said 2 other mercenaries have been detained. More in this report.
Yesterday, unidentified gunmen shot dead the president and seriously wounded his wife, Martine Moise. The First Lady was flown to Florida for treatment, where she is in a stable but critical condition. Officers are still in combat with some remaining suspects in the nation's capital, Port-au-Prince. Police Chief Leon Charles said 3 policemen who were taken hostage have also been recovered. Haiti's ambassador to Washington, Bochet Edmond, said the gunmen were masquerading as U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration agents, a move that would likely have helped them gain entry to Moise's guarded residence. Haiti's government has declared a 2-week state of emergency to help it hunt down the assassins, whom Edmond described as a group of foreign mercenaries and well-trained killers. Acting Prime Minister Claude Joseph said the gunmen spoke English and Spanish, while the majority in Haiti speak French or Haitian Creole. The brazen assassination drew condemnation from the UN Security Council, the US and neighboring Latin American countries. The Dominican Republic has closed its border to neighboring Haiti, where political unrest, gang violence and a growing humanitarian crisis have all plunged the nation deeper into chaos.
Jacob Zuma, the former president of South Africa, has handed himself over to the police. A police spokesperson confirmed in a statement that Zuma was in custody in compliance with last week's ruling. Zuma begins 15 months in jail for contempt of court. He was admitted to the Estcourt Correctional Center in his home province of KwaZulu-Natal. Zuma was sentenced after he failed to attend an inquiry into corruption during his 9 years in power. He has been accused of allowing 3 Indian-born businessmen to plunder state resources and influence government policy. But Zuma and the 3 brothers who fled to Dubai after the former president was ousted deny any wrongdoing. Brazil has reported more than 1,600 COVID-19 deaths and over 54,000 cases in the past 24 hours. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 4 million lives and has infected over 185 million others. More in this report.
More than 4 million people around the world have died of the COVID-19. But just 3 countries, the United States, Brazil and India, account for more than a third of all these deaths. Despite a decline in overall cases and deaths in the Americas, last week the region accounted for more than half of global coronavirus fatalities. The UN has warned that efforts for pandemic recovery are threatened because women are being excluded from critical decision-making roles. Meanwhile, in the US, New York City threw a ticker tape parade for essential health workers.
It means a lot because, a lot of times you work and you don't get any thanks, so just being recognized and getting the city to say thank you, it means a whole lot. But really, a lot of us did it not for the thanks, because we wanted to help our communities.
Britain has announced to provide genome sequencing support to Brazil, Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria and Pakistan to help track new variants, while the number of cases in Germany has ticked up again after more than 2 months of steady decline. In Spain, the health minister has warned that young people can develop severe infections as Delta variant tears through unvaccinated groups.
We are seeing an important increase in the accumulated incidence, especially in 2 age groups, 12 to 19 years and 20 to 29 years. With situations linked to end-of-year trips, to stay indoors without respecting the rules that we all have imposed on ourselves, which we also know are those that prevent the spread of the virus.
Over in Asia, as a second wave of infection sweeps through Indonesia, large plots are being cleared to make space for burying COVID-19 victims. Japan is also set to declare a state of emergency for Tokyo from July 12th through August 22nd to contain a fresh surge. The city hosts Olympic Games that run from July 23rd to August 8th. Meanwhile, Australia's New South Wales state has reported its biggest daily rise in locally acquired cases this year.
In Pakistan, coronavirus has claimed 24 more lives in the last 24 hours. The health ministry says the country's death toll has reached 22,493. It reported nearly 1,700 new infections, taking the caseload to over 967,000. The health ministry says more than 910,000 people have recovered so far from the virus. It says there are over 34,000 active cases in the country. Pakistan is remembering prominent philanthropist Abdul Sattar Idi on his 5th death anniversary. Idi was born on February 28, 1928 in Gujarat and passed away at the age of 88 in Karachi. Idi established the world's largest volunteer ambulance network and homeless shelters across Pakistan. He won many awards, including the Asian Nobel and the Lenin Peace Prize and Nishan-e-Imtiaz for his services. Idi's foundation has provided relief in Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Iran, Lebanon, Sri Lanka, Croatia, Indonesia, and the United States. A fire caused by an explosion on a ship at Dubai's Jebel Ali port has been brought under control. The Dubai media office called the blast a normal accident in a container holding flammable material. In a statement, the media office said there are no casualties or injuries reported. It said the port authorities are taking necessary measures to ensure the normal movement of ships. Meanwhile, Dubai police say the cause of the fire may have been friction or high temperatures. Jebel Ali Port is Middle East's largest transshipment hub, which handles 13.5 million containers in 2020. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against tech giants Google, Twitter, and Facebook. Trump's social accounts were suspended in January over public safety concerns in the wake of the Capitol riots. Trump says he has been wrongfully censored by the companies. The class action lawsuit filed in federal court in Florida also targets the three companies' CEOs. In a news conference, the former president said the case will prove the censorship is unlawful. He added that it is unconstitutional and completely un-American. Earlier, Trump had also claimed that his election defeat was the result of a widespread fraud. In the United States, rescue services combing the rubble of a collapsed Miami building have stopped the search for survivors. In a news conference, Surfside Mayor Charles Burkhead said the possibility of someone being alive is near zero. Crews recovered 18 more bodies on Wednesday in the ruins of the condo complex. A total of 54 bodies have been recovered from the ruins of the Champlain Towers South building so far. Florida officials say that there is no longer hope that any of the nearly 100 people missing might be found alive.
At this point, we have truly exhausted every option available to us in the search and rescue mission. So today is about beginning the transition to recovery so that we can help to bring closure to the families who've been suffering and waiting for news.
It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Japanese officials have warned of possible flooding and landslides as floods hit a city in Hiroshima. Officials have urged residents of Mihara City to be cautious as the Tenjo River has overflowed. Authorities have issued the level 5 alert for more than 8,200 people in the two districts. The meteorological agency says warm and damp air from the south has been feeding the seasonal rain front. Floodwaters have also covered streets in Takahara City as part of Japanese record heavy rainfall. Earlier on Saturday, rainfall in the seaside resort of Atami killed 7 people. Rescuers are still searching for 27 missing people. In the United States, tropical storm Elsa is weakening as it passes over northern Florida. Heavy rains and strong winds triggered by the storm caused flooding in the streets of the Florida Straits. The United States National Hurricane Center says Elsa has now been downgraded from a Category 1 hurricane. Some coastal counties reported flooding and downed trees, but authorities did not declare any injuries or major structural damage. About 26,000 customers had lost power across Florida. 4 German tightrope walkers have set a world record by crossing a 2.1 kilometer long and 600 meters high line. The record that they have set in the U-shaped valley in Swedish Lapland may prove difficult to beat. More in this report.
Tightrope walking, also known as funambulism, is one of the most extreme of all air sports. In Laporten Valley, the highliners wore watches with GPS trackers to measure and verify the distance walked between the two anchors. Quirin Herterich was the first to make it without falling and was followed by his compatriots Lucas Ermler, Ruben Langer and Friday Cohen.
This is hard because it's really exposed. It's 600 meters high. It's 2,150 meters, and it's really windy here sometimes. And just getting everyone here, it's really far out to get it all organized. It's been a major challenge.
Laporten is located just outside Abisko National Park inside the Arctic Circle and is a popular hiking destination. At this time of the year, the sun does not set, giving the highliners plenty of time to fry for the record. It took the team 2 days of hard work to rig the line, always mindful of the weather.
This place, Laporten, is for me an iconic place and a very beautiful landmark of this whole area. And you know, when I started looking at bigger projects, I saw a picture of Laporten. I haven't seen Laporten in decades, and just when I saw it, I knew it had to be rigged and crossed.
Others on the team also tried to break the record and failed, but they just wanted to test to walk on the line. Even with a safety harness tethered to the rope, highlining can still be quite dangerous. It is a team sport, and a world record is shared among all the members, including the ones rigging the rope.
European stocks have retreated amid a more cautious turn in global sentiment. Italy's FTSE MIB dropped over 2% to lead the losses. CAC 40 in Paris slipped close to 2%. Frankfurt's DAX and FTSE in London shed more than 1% each. The Pan-European Stock 600 also fell more than 1%, with basic resources dropping over 2%. It's now time to take a look at the weather updates from around the world. For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.